Welcome to Holy Trinity Tulse Hill Straw Bale Build. This video tells you what you need to know about site safety, it tells you about site risk mitigation, and it tells you about some of your actions. Key personnel are Richard Dormandy, project leader, and the site manager Nicole Lyon. Each day you must sign in and out of the site register via the QR code, answering all the questions. Toilets and basic kitchen facilities can be found at the back of the church and in the undercroft below the church. Lunch tables will either be set up in the church or in St John's Chapel below the church. There is limited parking in the church car park. The main fire escape route must be kept clear at all times. Do not come to site if you have any COVID symptoms. Sanitize your hands regularly and upon each entry into the church. Maintain a 2-meter distance where practicable. Avoid face-to-face working where practicable. Discuss with Nicole or Richard if you feel uneasy with working arrangements at any time. First aid. Our first aid bag is kept in our work area. Nicole Lyon is our on-site appointed first aider. The nearest A&E can be found at King's College Hospital. All accidents and incidents must be reported to the site manager, including near misses. Accidents must be recorded in the site accident book, and certain accidents must be reported to the HSE. Our site rules. Please read the site rules before signing them. High-vis vests are mandatory at all times. Helmets are mandatory wherever there is work going on above or below the scaffolding. Steel-capped boots are always preferable and sometimes mandatory. We have a zero tolerance for violence and bullying. We have a total ban on smoking, drug, alcohol on site, and anyone disobeying these rules will be immediately asked to leave. This site has a tidy policy. Any hazards regarding daily work will be communicated to all on site. Due care and attention must be given to your surroundings. Training will be given before any work at heights. Only authorized deliveries will be allowed on site. Equipment. Only use equipment if you have been given permission to do so. Do not alter any scaffolding or mobile towers. They can only be erected, modified and dismantled by trained and authorized personnel. More detailed training re scaffolding towers and ladders will be given in the working at height section. What you need to know about fire risk. Fire is a hazard. The structure of the building is timber frame. Timber frame is a high-risk fire hazard. On every construction site, there is potential for fire to break out due to combustible materials, waste piles, and processes that create heat, and heat can cause combustion of materials. So be aware of fire as a hazard. You have a liability, we all have responsibility. The risks of fire are being pointed out to you now. You have a legal obligation to follow or comment on the site fire safety plan. You can be legally liable if you endanger lives of those working on the site or people outside the site boundary. So be aware that this site has been reviewed for the fire risk, has got a safety plan which you must comply with, a copy will be handed to you, has got a fire safety plan summaries on fire point boards and notice boards around the site, and only allows fire risk works to happen with a permit and special measures in place. This is the summary of our fire safety plan. You can see here the routes for going to the muster point, which is at the front of the church at part of the car park behind the notice board. You can see where the routes out of the building are, and you can see how to get there. Your actions on fire. Action to take if a fire starts. If you spot a fire, set off a fire alarm. Only attempt to extinguish a fire if you are competent and trained to use a fire extinguisher. Evacuate the site by the nearest clear escape and go to the muster point. Do not stay to collect your tools, and only re-enter the site once given the all clear by the site manager or fire marshal on duty. 5 key rules about fire safety. 1. Be familiar with the fire boards and the fire safety plan. 2. Take part in fire drills. 3. No smoking except in the designated area, which is the street outside the church site. 4. Understand when work permits are needed. 5. Keep a tidy site with clear escape routes and no combustible piles. Working at height for site volunteers and site workers. Some facts. In 2013 and 14, 39 workers died falling from heights, and all those fatal fall injuries were male. 27% of major injuries, that is fractures and amputations, involved falls from height, with the highest rates being among older men. Falls from height happen at all times of the year. So as part of the Work at Height Regulations 2005, those who work at height must be competent. In addition, every person shall report any activity that he or she knows is likely to endanger the safety of themselves or another person. Work at height means work in any place where, if there were no precautions in place, a person could fall a distance liable to cause personal injury. That means working at height could be 2 feet off the floor or next to a ditch that is merely 2 foot deep. But take a sensible approach. There may be some low-risk situations where common sense tells you no particular precautions are necessary. The law recognizes this, but it says you must still make yourself aware of the risks. The regulations hierarchy. Avoid work at height if you can. If you can't, then prevent falls by using the proper gear such as scaffolds, mini towers or MUPs. If you can't easily prevent those falls, then minimize the chances of being hurt if you fall. For example, by using safety nets. This applies even to quick, small jobs. Doing nothing is dangerous and illegal. So a summary of the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. Take reasonable care for the health and safety of yourself and of other persons. Cooperate with the health and safety requirements of your supervisor. Do not interfere with or misuse anything provided in the interests of health, safety or welfare, e.g. change scaffolding, etc. Here are 3 kind of typical pictures of people working at heights in a dangerous way. Have you done any of these or anything like them? Don't do them here at Holy Trinity. Scaffolding. Our building is surrounded by scaffolding with several lifts to enable us to work safely. The scaffold can only be altered by competent scaffolders. Anyone removing scaffold poles will be immediately asked to leave site. The scaffold is checked daily by us and weekly by a max scaffold representative. It is prohibited to throw anything off the scaffold. Use the bucket. As with any temporary structure, please watch your footings. If you see anything of concern, you must inform us. Mobile towers. You need to be competent to build, inspect, use and dismantle a tower. Currently, the only person at Holy Trinity deemed competent and qualified to build and inspect a tower according to the HSE is Richard. Mobile towers must not be used outside if the wind is anything more than a moderate breeze, 13 to 18 miles per hour, or if raises dust or loose paper or moves small branches. You must only ascend a tower on the inside of the tower, going up through the trapdoor. You must hoist loads inside the tower if at all possible. You must not try to gain extra height on the tower by using ladders or steps on the platform. You must not move the tower or remove any components without permission. Ladder use. You should only use ladders in situations where they can be used safely and for tasks of short duration, i.e. up to 30 minutes. Ladders and steps need to be level, stable. Ladders need to be secured where it's reasonably practical to do so. And check all 4 stepladder feet, if using step ladders, are in contact with the ground and that the steps are level. Other things to think about. Prevent tools and material falling. Throwing materials or debris, i.e. bombing, is never acceptable. Warn employees or visitors about danger areas where applicable. We welcome alternative ideas. Please communicate with us. Together we can mitigate risks. RAMs, that is risk assessment and method statements. For all worked activities, there are method statements and risk assessments. Contractors are required to provide these before commencement of work to the site manager for approval. Certain works may require a permit to work. This type of work cannot begin without authorization by the site manager and the completion of a works permit first. Manual handling. Manual handling is unavoidable. Thus, it is essential that it is carried out correctly to avoid both immediate and long-term injuries. The primary aim is to eliminate manual handling so far as reasonably practicable, i.e. use mechanical handling. But on our site, this is rarely possible. Where manual handling must be carried out, then it must be assessed and proper procedures must be followed. Assess all loads. Are they heavy, bulky, unstable, difficult to grasp, sharp, etc.? Size up the load and if necessary make a trial lift by rocking it from side to side and lifting it a few inches. Can you handle the load yourself or do you need assistance? Wear suitable clothing and PPE such as gloves and safety boots to protect you against cuts, crushed toes, etc. Is there sufficient space, suitable lighting and a clear route to where you're taking the load? Do not carry a load that will obscure your vision. If necessary, move the load in stages. Always use a good handling technique. Stand reasonably close to the load, feet hip width apart, and 1 foot slightly pointing forward in the direction you're going. Bend your knees while keeping your back straight. Get a secure grip on the load. Breathe in before commencing the lift. Carry out the lift smoothly using the legs to take the strain, keeping the back straight, chin up, and arms close to the body. Step off in the direction the advanced foot is pointing, keeping the load close to the body. If necessary, stop for rests en route. Avoid any jerky or twisting movements. Excavations and digging. The primary aim here is to eliminate manual digging so far as is reasonably practicable. In other words, where possible, use a mechanical digger. But where manual digging must be carried out, then it is properly assessed and proper procedures must be followed. If excavation site is daily inspected and after severe downpours and bad weather. We wear suitable clothing and PPE such as gloves, safety boots and safety glasses. We ensure there's enough room for digging, keeping a safe distance from other persons. The dug up soil is taken down to the bottom of the site in wheelbarrows, taking due care of ground conditions. The use of hydraulic digging or compacting equipment is limited to competent personnel and time limited to 30 minutes use. Following the instructions, giving regard to required depth line of trenches, battening of the sides to a safe angle of repose. Any concerns about activities on site should be actioned by your line management. If you're concerned that actions are being ignored and you consider it a safety issue, phone the HSE complaints team, CAT, on 0300 003 1647.